Welcome to Be Customer Led, where we'll explore how leading experts in customer and employee experience are navigating organizations through their own journey to be customer led, and the actions and behaviors employees and businesses exhibit to get there. And now your host, Marbu Brown.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you've decided to join me for another episode of Be Customer Led, and you'll be glad you did. With the help of today's guests, we're going to crack the code on why customers do what they do so you can design for it ahead of time instead of being surprised by it after the fact. You see, the choices that customers make are rooted in the principles of human behavior, otherwise known as psychology. And today's guest will simplify that so it is accessible for leaders like you to use. Our guest is Mark Levy. He's the head of product and customer experience at Frontier Internet, where he oversees product and CX strategy, integrating AI, journey analytics, and cross-functional execution to drive measurable results. Among his accomplishments, he has helped launch Xfinity Mobile and led major CX and digital transformation initiatives at other companies like Comcast, AT&T, Nokia, and Jaguar Land Rover. Welcome to the program, Mark.
Thanks, Marbu. Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
And I'm really glad to have you because this is going to be a topic that we can, dig into quite a lot. Now, I said a few things about you, but I want you to help the listeners get to know you better by telling us how you came to be where you are today in the CX world. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thanks again. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's been quite a circuitous route to getting to where I am. I started out in the music business and then went into the film business and then the film music business, and then crossed over into technology and the internet back in the early 2000s, then worked in ringtones and early mobile content, and then crossed over into becoming more of a strategist and consultant for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was really working with major brands across the world, helping them with their digital strategies and digital transformation and customer experience. Back in 2015, one of my clients turned into Comcast, and in 2016, in late 2016, I ended up joining the company there and helping launch Xfinity Mobile. I was responsible for all of their service experience going forward, and then I led their customer experience delivery and operations group. And then I was asked to take on all of digital experience across all of Comcast. I left there in 22 and then joined Frontier in late, October of 22. And I've been here about 3 years, leading up customer experience and product experience. So it's been an interesting long path to getting to where I am.
Well, I'm sure that as you've done all these different things with digital, experience and, leading all of customer experience in these different environments, that has led to a lot of learnings. And as I said up front, we're going to talk a bit about, those principles of human behavior we refer to as psychology. And, I want to ask you, how did you get interested in the relationship between psychology and customer experience?
Well, look, when we talk about customer experience, we really are looking at what we bring to market through the eyes of our customer. And the experience that they have with it lends to our business success or failure. Now, for years, I would look at analytics that would kind of tell me, okay, this is what happened. But there was always the question of, well, why? Why did that happen? And then I started looking into there's ways that humans behave, and it's not always rational, and it's not always understandable, but it's pretty predictable. And there are some very specific ways that customers act and humans act when they're looking to purchase something or they're looking to get support for something. So I started bringing psychology into all of the experiences and looking at, well, we're starting with we're creating an onboarding experience, right? Mm-hmm. So we want the customer to feel when they first get that box in the mail, right? And so we need to think about what their types of behaviors, what they're expecting, right? How do they trust us or do they not trust us? Do they understand what they purchased clearly? That all has an impact, right? So the learn experience will all have an impact into that onboarding experience. And so we look at everything that we do here at Frontier and throughout. The way that I look at this really is like psychology is already shaping the customer experience, right? And we're either working with it or we're working against it.
That's right.
So it was important to me to really bring psychology and the way that humans behave into the practice of customer experience. And as I did that, I realized that there were studies that showed that customers act certain ways, and we could use that information to make better decisions and or to better understand what results we were getting. And so that's really the impetus for my focus on psychology. I just think it's a huge part of understanding the customer experience and how we can serve them better.
Yeah, and you talked about the experience when somebody's looking to buy something, the experience when they're looking to get support. It even flows into, when they're shopping before they even buy, and kind of in the middle when they're trying to use that thing, right? And so there's all these different aspects of the spectrum. But you've taken your lessons learned from, looking into the underlying, principles of human behavior, right? And how they do what they do. You've crafted that into a book. I mean, what inspired you to take that and put it in a book?
Yeah. Well, I've been collecting this information over the years, and I work with my team often to share that information with them and use that in my work. And I realized really that there was an opportunity to share that more widely. And so I looked at different options. I thought, well, I could create an online course, or I could spread that out through my newsletter, which I write every week, or I could compile it into really a field manual. That's really what it is. It's more of a reference book, right? It's not a textbook that you're going to read from end to end. It compiles 101 psychological principles that really map into the way customers think. There's how they understand information, things to do with emotional and social dynamics, motivation, how things are designed, right, to support customer experience, how they make choices. And then also I've got a whole section on AI, which is obviously a burgeoning area, really looking at transparency, fluency, trust, right? These are all things that we've got to consider. So I pulled these together, and really what I saw in the marketplace when I talked with others who are kind of in similar positions is that there really wasn't anything like this out there. So I wanted to pull something together that gave people the opportunity to learn about these principles, to understand how you can measure these principles and measure the results. How do you explain the value, right, of the work that you're doing based on this information and get buy-in? And then how do you drive action? Right, that's really the most important thing. So I wrote something that I wanted myself, and I pulled it all together.
I got to tell you that there's a lot of power in documenting something like this, because like you said, the folks that you work with, you want them to understand those principles, and you can send it to the broader world, but even just having it down for those folks to be able to understand it, that would be a win, right? And of course, making it available to your colleagues and other, folks who are trying to do the same thing you're doing, that's even better. So the name of the book is The Psychology of CX 101. It's coming out in about 20 days. So just wanted to make sure that, I mentioned that so people would know what we're actually talking about. Well, look, as soon as we start using the word psychology, some people begin to gloss over and begin to think, hey, this is too academic, all of that sort of stuff. So tell me, how do you make this accessible so that, leaders can just put it to work? It makes sense for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, it's a completely fair point. It's the exact reason that I wrote the book the way I did. Certainly we go into research studies and information that supports the psychological principles, but it's really designed for business leaders, take it out of the academic world and really make it a hands-on type of experience. Each principle is broken down into a business case study. Very simple, the explanation. I'll give you a few in a few minutes. A little bit of background about the principle itself. And maybe if there's some research that supports it, I include that as well. Why it's important to understand this information as a CX, UX, marketing, product type of professional. And then some ideas on how to put that into action and measure it. And then the one last thing is that it also includes like a cross-reference. So in the way that I'm thinking about this and the way I've already used it myself, actually, since I wrote it and I got a proof, is I was on a call with my team. We were talking about some issues we were having with our online app, with our app, and a sales experience we were talking about. And I actually opened up the book and I was like, Oh, interesting. Oh, you know what? And I brought up the concept to my team and like that's what it's for. That's what I expect it to be for. But it could also be used as a driver for teams to get together and take a look at a principle. Or I've also structured the book in such a way that you can say, okay, I've got issues with onboarding. So there's a whole section of like, these are the ones that you should look at if you're having issues with onboarding or with trust, or you've got AI questions. So it's very cross-referenceable in that respect. And I think it's meant to be, quickly absorbed and with very tactical actions that you can take. And in the end, really turns into measurement and action that supports your business.
So why don't you give us a couple of examples? Because I think that will help people to get a feel for how this comes together when you have like a case and you got the principle that connects to the case and how you bring those things together. Give us an example or a couple.
Yeah. So as an example, Williams Sonoma, right? We know the home goods store. They put out a premium bread maker. And something unexpected happened when they put that out. The sales for the original cheaper model nearly doubled.
Oh.
They didn't change the price. They didn't change the product or the price. But what they did was they introduced a new, more expensive option next to it, which made the original seem like a fantastic deal. And that's a psychological principle called anchoring, right? When you anchor someone against in this case, a higher price, there's a lower price, it makes it look like this is a great deal. And that's what it turned into. Another example is what we call the peak end rule, right? This is about people don't remember the whole experience. They really just remember like the most intense moment or the peak and the end. So one example that I found that I think is really awesome is there's this place in Los Angeles called the Magic Castle. Have you ever heard of it?
Okay. No, I haven't.
So it's actually a club for magicians.
Interesting.
It's in Hollywood. It's been there for a very long time. And they also have a hotel. So you can go and stay there and you can watch the magicians. But one of the things that's really cool there is that they have by the pool a red phone. And you can pick up that phone. It's called the Popsicle Hotline. And the pool, and they'll deliver a free popsicle to you at the pool. And they created that as this like wow moment that you would remember. So they're putting the peak end rule into effect by creating a special experience that hopefully you'll remember, that you'll go away going, oh my God, they brought me popsicles to the pool. It was amazing. I picked up this phone. It was awesome.
I was going to say that it seems like Ritz-Carlton is kind of masters in creating those peak end moments, right? I remember reading about one of their scenarios where, somebody, went fishing. The chef came in and prepared their fish and delivered it to them at the pool. I gotta think that was a peak moment during their trip, right? So yeah, but keep going. You were about to give us another example.
Yeah, I was going to say, so another example is what we call the von Restorff effect. I know it sounds highfalutin there, but it really
sure does sound highfalutin.
It's really about remembering what stands out. So things that are different, right? So as you create experiences, you're thinking, I want things to stand out. You want to use the von Restorff effect. As an example of that is a few years back, if you were watching the Super Bowl, Coinbase put out an ad that was just a bouncing QR code. That was the whole ad. 15 seconds. It was like the lone weird ad, and it worked. App installs spiked 300% that night. Right. So they did something different. They did something out of the ordinary.
It was worth the $7 million they paid for it.
It was. It was. But so, these are things that you look at it and you go, well, how do I make a difference? Where can I make a difference in my experience? Well, let me think. What stands out, right? So you start to ask yourself the questions, how can I make things stand out? And then that hopefully will drive creativity. Or the other end of the spectrum is, we're not seeing customers react to certain things the way we expected them to. Well, what else could I do to do that? I mean, these are, the customer experience is never over, right? It's never like, oh, we're done. We can all go home now. There's always something that could be improved or changed based on feedback and data. And so these principles are there, and the examples are there to help spur ideas, give teams and individuals new ways of supporting their customers.
Now, it sounds like you've kind of honed in on, I know you've got like all the different principles and you've got examples, but I think there's also, some scenarios where you have like, specific parts of the journey that you kind of, pulled out, like maybe onboarding or unboxing or something along those lines. Like, tell me a little bit about, some of those where folks can say, hey, if I'm working on this part, I've got a little bit of a map that will help me to see which one of these principles work for me and how I can use them. Yeah.
So I've got a whole detailed comprehensive index. So the index includes all the psychological principles. It also includes mentions of all the different company names. So if you want to go in there and pick a name and say, I want to see what Target did, right? Pick a name and go in and see that. We also have it broken down by problem solution sort of quick finder. So if you're having issues with conversion and low sales, right, I give you a breakdown of like, if you've got low conversion rates, you want to look at the anchoring principle. Then you want to look at maybe social proof shortcut, right? How bringing the social validation to the flow might make a difference. How do people deal with loss aversion, right? Once they've gotten into a process, people don't really want to stop. They want to continue. So is there something they might lose if they stop? So thinking about that. So each of these has a kind of a process of going through, okay, here's what I can look at and be inspired by. And then there's a breakdown based on different kind of thinking processes. So like cognitive and mental processing, right? So for each case, I've got that. So I think it's very useful. Again, I've been using it myself. and the people I've shared it with have been using it to, in that moment, my goal is that it sits on everyone's desktop, right? And it's a reference for them throughout the day, throughout the week, to spur new ideas, to spur action, and to make a difference. Again, the ultimate end game for me is to make the customer experience the best it can be.
Every time you talk about having it on somebody's desk and how when you were talking with your team, you pulled it out. I keep thinking to myself, it's going to be something the day that one of the folks who works for you pulls out one of these things and starts using it on you, right?
Yes, I hope so. That would be great. That would be great.
So I remember in a prior life, somebody said, one of my all-time favorite Marble Brown quotes, I have it on a Post-it note on my monitor, and it's like, it says, help is not help unless the person who's getting it thinks it is.
That's great. That's great.
And when it came back to me, it was really interesting to hear it, coming back to me in another form. Well, look, Mark, you have got 101 of these principles in there. Mm-hmm. What do you say to people who say, man, that's just too many? I'd be overwhelmed by that. I mean, you shared a little bit about how this is laid out, to try to mitigate that. But what do you say to people who, that's their kind of thought, is like, this is too much for me?
Yeah, I would counter with, I think it's a great opportunity. And in the way that I've organized the information to be able to be found, again, it's not a book you read from end to end. It's a book that you'll dive into for different purposes and different reasons. Now, there's some chapters in here that you will read end to end. There's one on measurement, right? So there's a real clear message of, everything you do, you need to measure. So if you're making these changes, did you reduce churn? Did you decrease the time to click? Did you, all of that? So how do you turn that into dollars, right? So the ROI element that your business really would need to hear. And then also there's a chapter on ethics, right? So this is a really big point. Psychology can be used for good or not, right? We can use that decoy or
for influence or for manipulation.
Exactly. So my sense is to use it for influence, to use it for the good. And I've put together a whole chapter there about ethics and about how to really consider this and make sure that you're doing the right thing. There's another chapter in there that's focused on, that's a deep dive into AI, right? And it's about how AI is changing customer experience, but also how to bring it to how it's coming to life in terms of empathy and how you calibrate empathy and how you handle trust when it comes to AI. And again, how customers are thinking about AI when they're encountering your chatbot, or their transparency, right? Like if you're telling the customer, like there's an example of a mental health application called Wobot that is very clear that it is telling you it is a bot, right? It's not to be a human or anything like that. It's not trying to replace a human, but there's transparency in that, and that's really important. And I think that leads to a lot of trust. So I've gone deep into AI. It's obviously the hot topic du jour, and I think it's very relevant to anyone working in customer experience today.
So measurement, ethics, AI are some of those deep dive chapters. Let's anchor on measurement for a little bit, right? Because this is a big deal. You have some examples of where people have utilized these principles, whether consciously or subconsciously, okay, and they have generated certain types of results in terms of ROI or improved customer lifetime value. You got any examples like that you'd like to share?
So in the measurement section, I do talk about there's a number of different ways to measure the output. So there's behavioral metrics, and I talk about how to use them and what they're best for, like simplifying copy, right? Increases the ability that someone will understand what it is that you're selling. We also have blended metrics. So you could take behaviors plus surveys, right? So you look at the feedback that comes from customers and use that to measure. There's qualitative insights. And I put together a kind of a structure of saying, like, there's different measurement levels. Like, am I testing how people think or how they feel or am I testing identity or trust? Right. And so there's different levels of measurement that I put into the book, and ways that I think about how to measure each of these principles.
So what are some of the big takeaways on AI that you want people to walk away with? You know, since you took the time to delve into that a little bit more, what are some of the big takeaways you'd like people to walk away with?
One main point is that the goal isn't to make AI human, but it's about leveraging AI for what it does best. So there's cognitive tasks, right? For humans, what they do best is really the empathy piece, right? So when you think about that, and you're building AI experiences that you're bringing in what we talked about before, trust, transparency, figure out like where that level of empathy is. Like there's certain elements, especially in customer service, where bots can handle to a point, but they're never going to solve that emotional issue that the customer may have. Right? Mm-hmm. So a way to, within the AI as well, to do a graceful handoff, right? Get over to a human who could take the problem forward and help solve it. I think AI is going to actually start taking over quite a bit of like your tier one experience of customer service, either in self-service or what normally would happen in a contact center, and that the future of customer service is really going to be with humans is really going to be for those moments where you just can't handle it at the AI level. But AI is getting a lot better. If you talk to ChatGPT voice mode or Gemini voice mode, it's pretty supportive. It's trying to play that mode. Maybe it's something, but I think there's a huge sea change coming in the customer experience world around AI, and these are things. Like I said, the importance of transparency and empathy and trust really are the key parts.
Well, you know, I think that one of the things that AI has to be really good at is recognizing when it's at its limit, and it needs to make that handoff, right? Yeah. I think that's one of the things that AI really has to be great at, and really, you know, eliminating friction for the customer, not contributing to frustration, but eliminating frustration, right? And I think that if we can, you know, develop AI in such a way that it contributes to that positive experience for the customer, and it's a smooth flow, you know, not getting customers into these infinite loops where, you know, they're constantly trying to get somewhere, but they can't get there. I think that will be, you know, a win from an AI perspective, right? So
that there's a lot as it relates to personalization, right? Where AI and algorithms, they can be helpful or they can be invasive. So like a helpful example would be, let's say Spotify has this Discover Weekly solution, and that's all AI driven. It's based on what your listening history is, and it recommends new music, and it's supposed to be, and it has been for me, a delightful experience. On the other hand, I don't know if you remember a few years back, there was a story about Target and someone who purchased, I think they purchased baby powder, and then they started getting, the algorithm thought they were pregnant, so they started getting messages about pregnancy and pregnancy products and things like that. That's a little bit invasive, a little bit, you know, we've got to be really careful about how the data is used to personalize experiences.
Yeah, well, it's the difference between being creepy. You know, what happened there actually, you know, delved into the realm of creepiness, and they had to pull back from that. I think it was actually
the mother was not happy.
Yeah, well, I think it was a teenager, and the girl did turn out to be pregnant. So that was in the realm of the creepy. Well, Mark, we've covered, you know, quite a few bases here. Are there any, you know, parting thoughts that you want to leave with people before we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you. I think really psychology is it's not a layer you add to the customer experience. It's ingrained in the experience. And the ultimate goal here is to design experiences that don't feel designed, that just feel effortless and work for the customer. And so I hope that the work that I've done here to compile this this tome that hopefully will sit on everyone's desk will help people to create more successful customer experiences that drive their businesses, build loyalty, and increase satisfaction. So I'm excited to see this get out into the world and see what happens.
So where do people get the psychology of CX 101?
Yeah, so the book will be available on Amazon.com. And there's a paperback version and a Kindle
Beginning
version. When? September 16th.
Got it.
Launch. And you can pre-order today if you want to. You can go to Amazon and pre-order the Kindle version. The paperback version will be available on the 16th.
Okay.
For some reason, it's not available for pre-order, but it'll be available then.
Cool. And if people want to continue the conversation with you, how do they get a hold of you?
The best way, go to LinkedIn. Just look up Mark Levy Frontier or Mark Levy Customer Experience, and you'll find me.
You have a website for the book too, where people can get some bonuses and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Thank you. It's psychologyofcx101.com.
Okay.
And there's a number of bonuses if people are going to pre-order, just for signing up to the list to be notified when the book is available. We've got a couple of things like a CX audit checklist, which is interactive. It's a web page that you can answer some questions about your current customer experience and then get graded and have some suggestions about how you can solve any of those challenges that you're seeing using the book. There's some AI prompts that are based on CX psychology, and then there's some templates that I created that are also built on top of the principles. And then for anyone who purchases the book later on, I'm going to do a webinar kind of Q&A. And I've got an extra chapter that I didn't put in the book because it got too long. And it's called The Art of the Apology, and it's about service recovery. And then there's a few other bonuses as well. So I'm trying to make it as valuable as possible to the reader and give as much as I can back to the community.
Cool. Well, thank you. Really appreciate you coming on, sharing about your experience and helping us to, crack this code on why customers do what they do, because we don't want to find out after the fact. We want to be able to design for it ahead of time. And seems like you got something really good that will help people to be able to do that. So I really appreciate you coming on. To all of you who are viewing, who are listening, I want to say thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. And, tune in again next time, because we're going to have another insightful program that has nuggets that you can put to use in your business right away. Thank you for joining Be Customer Led.
Thanks for listening to Be Customer Led with Marbu Brown. We are grateful to our audience for the gift of their time. Be sure to visit us at becustomerled.com for more episodes. Leave us feedback on how we're doing, or tell us what you want to hear more about. Until next time, we're out.